Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the
I'm Mike with the Turntable Teachers. Class is officially back in session. We got another guest speaker episode here for you guys. I got a really amazing guest. The lovely Red Shaydez is joining us on the Turntable Teachers. Red Shaydez, how are you tonight?
I am doing amazing. I'm so happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm great. We had a little talk off air, obviously. Just going through the day by day, I think is really the motto at this point. And
That's all we can do. Because who knows what's happening tomorrow?
everything, it just changes day by day, right? I mean, with everything, it's unbelievable. But anyway, we're both breathing. We're here. We're about to talk some music and some awesome topics. I can't wait to break down some things here. But Red Shaydez, you are originally from Boston. Is that correct?
Yep, I was born and raised in Boston, but I also had a big childhood down in Macon, Georgia as well. I moved around a lot, so I consider myself a northern country girl.
I like the mix there. I can actually hear it in your voice a little bit too.
Oh, you do? Okay. Some people say that, some don't. They're like, I hear you draw. Like, it's certain things that I say have a draw, some don't. Some's very East Coast. I don't know.
Get like a cool mix between the two. That's kind of funny. I dig that for sure. But one of the big things with you just recently, you just dropped your brand new project, Feel the Aura, which is getting rave reviews. I mean, we reviewed it. I guess it was a feature on our New Music Friday, and I personally loved it. But I really want to talk to you about this project because, like I said, I think it's one of the best projects to come out of the area this year. No question.
Wow, thank you.
No, seriously, and that's not even just because you're here. I swear, I'm saying that to some other people too. Even I've been sending it to as many people as I can. But I just want to kind of get a feel for you, your inspiration behind the project. Your process creating it. What kind of went into a lot of just the creative process.
Yeah, great question. So originally, I'm a conceptual artist. So something with me, like all my work is interconnected and it's a continuation of the previous effort. When I first did my debut album, Magnetic Aura, back in 2016, I already knew that my follow-up was going to be a continuation, and I wanted to keep a play on the words with aura, because what's consistent within my brand is chilling in the shade, cooling, self-awareness, and just, the aura. And a lot of people would ask me, well, what does that mean to you? What does that mean? So when Magnetic Aura came out, that was sort of like the introduction into who I was and what my aura was. It was magnetic, right? That's at least what I was told. So I was trying to not only get the consumers familiar with that, but myself. I was younger and everything. And then on this follow-up, Feel the Aura, it was like, okay, now I'm here. I've arrived. I need you to feel it now. I told you what it was. Now it's like, let's get into it all the way. And prior to that, I dropped a short EP called Chill in the Shade EP. And that literally was just like a therapeutic effort for me. I felt like I needed to get that off my chest. A lot of the topics that I did first before I did Feel the Aura. But once the recording process for Feel the Aura came, all bets were off. I was unapologetic. I didn't care about what topics I touched. I tend to always reveal a lot about myself in the music, but this time, I think 150%, just like a lot of people was like, what were you on during this album? Like you were talking crazy. and you know what? I like the relationship I have with my supporters and my fans because they are, they're awesome, but they were like, Red, we want to hear you talk more ish. Like, we want to hear you talk trash. Like, we feel like, you made your staple here. You need to express that in the music. And the funny thing is, for the longest time, I've been trying to express the creative side that I had when I was a kid. 'Cause I've been rapping since I was 7. And when I was younger, I used to incorporate voices. I would do chopped and screwed. I looked up to Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes, all these people. And I felt like once I started making music, I couldn't really express that until Feel the Aura. And I credit that 100% to my engineer, International Show. So that's a little bit of what the process was for Feel the Aura.
Well, I mean, I feel the confidence, 1,000%. Even I did listen to. I haven't actually heard what was your debut album actually?
Magnetic Aura.
Got to go back and check that one out. So maybe that'll make sense if I like listen to them.
Yeah. Yep.
I have heard "Chillin' in the Shade" though. I did like that too. But I feel the aura was kind of like a whoa moment just for me because I was like, I seen your name floating around, but I'm like, damn. I was like, going on the track list, right? Like it started like they call me Shades. I was like, and I saw I think it's Lit guys. Didn't they review the music video for that? Was that?
Yes, they did. Yep.
Saw that, and then it got to like Elevation and From Bahamas to Atlanta. Like Elevation's one of my favorite tracks personally. Like
me too. My personal favorite. Yeah.
It was crazy. And then when it got to the Recipe, I was hooked by that. Like I was like,
you know what? That makes me smile because I'm very meticulous with the track listing and like the order. And I specifically was trying to lure you in.
Yeah. Well, you hit it like real quick. You hit like with some of like the heavy hitters, and then you got into like I thought the strategy was good because then you're pulling, like you said, pulling some people in with the energy, and then you really, but you talked your shit throughout this whole thing. Like I was just on it. Stepping Out was another really one of my favorites as well. Really the whole thing was just kind of was great. But for you, like what was one of your favorite tracks from this album, or maybe like a moment for you, like in creating it, that was like very profound, that's in your head?
I had a couple of those moments, but Elevation, you mentioned that's one of my personal favorites off the project because, I love doing the back and forth. We don't get that often anymore in 2020. But like when you grow up listening to people like Nas and AZ, they have a particular track called How You Livin'. And I used to love that song. And I did the same thing with Oompa From Bahamas to Atlanta, sort of doing that alternating. But that song was more of a conversation. The one with Bakari was like passing the baton back and forth. You know what I mean? And we had so much fun. And I feel like the writing process for this album was so dope and unique because every feature was recorded in my apartment under red light. That was the rule. And it was in person. So I didn't do a song where they sent me a verse back after hearing what I did to it. It was, here's the beat. We're going to come up with the song from scratch. And I feel like, after hearing everybody say the features are so dope, I feel like that is a major reason as to why they are, because they were created in person and we played off of each other's vibes, right? So Elevation is definitely one for me. Stepping Out is a favorite as well, just because I was able to get into my like alternative rock pop, like Red Shaydez type thing. I wasn't rapping at all. So I tell people, I'm like, that's not a hip hop song to me. It's really like this, like, pop rock, hip hop, whatever you want to call it. So, it was a song that I wrote when I was in a really dark space, and I was just amazed at how I was able to execute how I was feeling and turn it into sort of like a triumph. It was a sad, it came about because I was sad, but it's like, hey, but today I'm trying to break free from this dark cloud type thing. And it resonated with everybody, and I'm happy that it did. Because, sometimes as artists, we can make songs that are a personal favorite to us, but it really doesn't catch on with the other people, but it did. And I'd say in the recording studio with International Show, recording the song Ghost was like a big moment for me because the way he just mixed it and chopped it up, I don't know, the whole album, the whole recording process was just crazy. Because the last thing I'll just say is that I recorded this album in 8-hour sessions. So it was like sort of like the Dreamville sessions is how I mirrored this whole experience. I sent invites to all the artists just like the Dreamville did. And, I had them come in. I said, look, I'm recording from 12 to 8. When can you come through? Pop in, let me know. And I was recording 8 hours per day to get the album done.
The finished product is there, 1,000%. The work that went into it, if I feel it now, even knowing the background of this, is like, it's really cool. Like I'm digging this 1,000%. And I think there's something to be said, though, on a couple of things you just mentioned. The first would be like having the artists in the studio. That must, like, being able to play off of each other, especially like you said, the back and forth with Bakari. Mm-hmm. That's probably so much easier to execute, or really, I feel like it would almost be impossible to execute that.
How are we going to keep sending back and forth? Yeah.
Exactly. And we were just talking a little bit off air. Like I was mentioning to you, like, I love the, like the accessibility and just the ease to, do the Zoom interviews and things like that. Like I love it. And I'm able to talk to more people than I would be able to, but there is something to be said for having people in studio, right? Like that's what something that like COVID has really been affecting, unfortunately. But I feel, for you to have them in studio, like that energy is different. And then I love the red light. That's super dope.
Yeah, so that was the rule. It was like, hey, I'm inviting you to be on my album, but one, the writing session has to be in my crib so you could feel the aura, and the recording session has to be with my engineer at the studio that I record at, because I don't want any leveling issues, or I just want it all cohesive. And luckily, that's what happened. So all that can be found on my website too, like the whole process of how it came together. All the sessions, the writing sessions are up there, and the recording sessions are included too.
Dope. All right. Well, we're definitely going to link that in the description for sure in this episode. So after the episode, click that link. You guys want to hear more and see the process of Feel the Aura. Definitely something I'll check out. Something I'm checking out right after this for sure. Well, maybe after the Celts, but definitely doing it tonight. got my Celtics on today. But no, and then the other thing I wanted to just touch upon that you mentioned too is kind of the process of like a song like Stepping Out. And I think that, I maybe this is kind of I don't want to say it's like a negative thing, but it's almost like, those negative emotions and feelings, like you don't want to have those, but I feel like with artists in particular, like that's when the best music does come out in a sense, right? Like, or the most personal or the most, most touching and I guess relatable to like other people. I think that you really get that profound feeling when you can sense the, the emotion that an artist put into a song. So obviously I'm not condoning people to go through shit and anything like that and want them to, but it does seem like,
your best work comes from your pain because it's release. You know what I mean?
Have you ever seen, I love this, my favorite TED Talk, I show it to my students all the time. Have you ever seen Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story? Have you seen that by chance?
No, I haven't, but you can send it to me.
Okay, so we'll swap that. That'd be great. So for anybody that hasn't seen that, she was joking around because she's an author, and she was saying how, growing up, she had heard, in order to be a creative or to be an artist or an author or whatever, you're supposed to go through something, right? So she used to say, I used to just kind of make up in my head, like horrible things my parents used to do to me, but they never really did. It was just, I had a great childhood. So, but it's just interesting to hear that perspective of like, that is almost something that is like glamorized in creative like industries,
It is. I mean, if you, depending on what social media like platforms you use, like fans often joke like, oh, if so and so broke up with this person, they're like, we're about to get the best album ever because they're heartbroken. Like that's what I see a lot. But I don't know what it is and what the connection is. But yeah, when you go through something, it's like, all right, now you're more motivated to do your best, I guess. I don't know.
That's a good point. I agree. And like, you almost want to channel that into something else, like an outlet, a sense. Like,
yes.
Something productive instead of just kind of wallowing in your sorrows, which is, I mean, hey, like you need that for a day or two, week, whatever, however long, it's fine. But like, you obviously don't want to like stay in that place. So maybe it's a good way to kind of, like I said, just kind of get those emotions out there onto something on paper or into a song, whatever kind of your creative process is.
Yeah.
But two things. I love the shades, by the way.
Thank you. Shout out to Fabulize. Yeah, we I get a lot of shades from Fabulize because they're like, hey, we sell shades and we should sell a lot of red ones. I'm like, well, you know what?
On brand, I might as well.
On brand, let's do it.
Right? If you got the red light, you gotta just
everything red.
They even say that red is the most in terms of color. It's like the most recognizable and noticeable. So that's why I guess like stop signs are red and fire trucks are red. And they say like red cars are actually like the most pulled over, supposedly.
Wow, that's good to, red represents a lot. So like it represents fire and passion. That's a part of my name. So,
No, I mean, any of our listeners, I'm sure or fans of Red Shades, I'm sure right off the bat, like you're feeling this already. You're feeling that passion. And I definitely get the Missy Elliott vibes too. I can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Not, it didn't dawn on me beforehand, but now that you mentioned it, I'm like, okay, I can
They're
actually.
real subtle. If you listen, it depends on how you pick apart music, you know? And like I said, this is my first time that I've been able to express it. But yeah, I'll save the end for a song that you'll really be able to hear it in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought in terms of like the production, it wasn't as definitely don't use like this like same production that a lot of Missy Elliott use. But I guess now that I'm
It's
even
more the songwriting because I write R&B.
yeah,
So it's more that. Yeah.
even your cadence too, in a sense, like the way you're even just right now expressing yourself, it makes it feel. I definitely see the comparison there for sure, the influence
The
rather,
influence. Yeah, yeah.
no doubt. Um, but another thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it kind of coincides with your album because you had a lot of Boston artists on this album, and so I was just kind of curious, how has living in Boston or really collaborating within the Boston music scene, how has it affected you as an artist and really as a person? Because the Boston music scene is really not one that nationally is known, and I've even found people in Boston don't even understand what we have in our own backyard. It took me 25 years. And then just last year recently, when I was in the middle of thinking about what I was going to do with this podcast, I wasn't sure. I was at kind of a crossroads. I almost stopped doing it. And then I, by accident, got into the Boston music scene, and I'm so happy I did. But, so I guess, yeah, my question back to that is, how has it impacted you as a person and as an artist? And, really what is the collaborative scene been like for you, because you do collaborate with quite a bit of people from this area.
Yeah, yeah. The Boston music scene has, aided in my growth tremendously. And you hit it right on the nail. Like a lot of people right here in their own backyard doesn't even know what's bubbling, what's cooking up. And COVID has made it harder to even see what's going on. But pre-COVID, which is when I recorded this album, by the way, there was a lot of great things going on. There's like just New England period, but all over Mass, it was like we're all getting different kind of looks. Like, this person might be getting a lot of press. This person, is getting a sync placement, and a producer had a placement on an album, like for a major artist. So like, I often wonder what people consider success, because success is, you know what I mean? Success is subjective. So for me, my success was never validated by being on a record label or, making millions of dollars. But for other people, I think if you're not signed to a deal, if you're not signed, they take it as, oh, nobody's made it out of here. Nothing's happening. There's no infrastructure. There's a lot of things. But like every city, there's a lot of cons. There's a lot of things that can be improved. But from my experience, my personal experience, the Boston music scene is what has catapulted my career here locally. Because not only am I involved in the art scene, I'm involved in nonprofit. I'm involved in a lot of different areas in Boston. So that was the major difference between Feel the Aura and Magnetic Aura. I did not know anybody when I did my first album, so there were no features on the album. The two collaborators on the album was my mother and my close friend. There were no other artists. And then on this one, it's like boom, here's 12. You know what I mean? And even while having the half of the city on the album, it still doesn't feel like a feature heavy project, because I feel like we did those writing sessions and really made an organic song. So it just sounds cohesive. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I feel like the scene is growing every year. I have a lot of like moments where I'm like, I've been doing this for so long, I'm ready to throw the towel in, just because it takes a lot out being an entrepreneur in any industry. But I told my dad he's a big mentor, and he can be heard on all the pep talks on my projects. He's on Pep Talk 3 on this one. And he's like, I said, I'm going to do this one last time. And I said, I'm going to go hard. I need to go back to the drawing board. So that's when I got serious. I registered my business, trademarked my name, got a business account, the whole nines. I started treating it as a business. And, I'm a big believer in divine order and divine timing. And I ended up getting accepted into the A3C festival in Atlanta, which is a big hip hop festival down there. And I feel like ever since that happened, and we had a big voting campaign, and my city voted me in to win, and I flew down there, ever since then, it's been a domino effect, and I haven't looked back since.
I love that story. That's incredible. And like you said, I mean, I even roughly speaking, I've been in the scene, or not. I'm not really in the scene, quote unquote, but like observing the scene, I guess is the better word for it, and trying to give people in the scene a platform to speak and things like that. But I've even noticed like every day, like or every week, I'm coming across somebody new that I didn't know about, or it's really kind of crazy because it's even a funny story too, because I'm good friends now with Heath 240, and he put me on to Sean Taylor, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know to Sean before being introduced to Heath. And then so it's so funny though, because I'm listening to your album and I'm like, oh my gosh, to Sean Taylor. So I hit up Heath and I hit him with the track, and I'm like, oh, your boy jumped on this Red Shades album, and it's amazing, by the way. And he dropped a dope verse and blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, I've heard this. I've never heard it, like Red Shades. I'm like, well, bro, you got to get on it, because it's crazy. But it's so cool to at the same time though, because two dope artists that like I know of, and or like, I mean, Heath, I'm good friends with. He doesn't even know about you, and vice versa. So it's just like it's just wild that there is this much talent here, and like I said before, like
Yeah.
who knows about it?
So the thing is, you can attribute one half of that is because people are not researching. Yeah, I don't feel like you should be able to speak on the scene if you're not in it. You can't say, "Oh, there's nothing here. This is not going on." I'm like, I don't see any of you guys at the shows, because that's what we often joke about online on Facebook and Instagram. It's like all these people complaining. We're like, no wonder you're not out here. We never saw you. We know who our fans are. We know the people that come out and support, buy the merch. Never heard of you. Never saw you. That's why you don't know us. Not for your friend, but in general, right? Then you get the other hand where it's just there's talent's not the issue. There's just so literally there's a plethora of artists here, but because of marketing or whatever it is, not everybody's on social media. Some people get their music different kind of ways. You're just not gonna know if you're not a person that reads articles. You're just not gonna know. You know what I mean? I got it where a large percent of my fans at the end of last year found out about me. Their first time seeing me was at the Boston Music Awards. They were like, I never heard of you, but I'm a fan today, moving forward. And then there's people that's been rocking with me since 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So for a lot of people, they think, we're new artists and we're upcoming and all that. And that's false. But we get to you guys. If you're just finding out, then yeah, we're new to you. So that's why I still perform songs off Magnetic Aura today, because it's always going to be new to somebody.
Exactly. Well, that's how I like really got immersed in it. Was I started going to shows. I started going. It was Labor Day of last year. I started really going into into the shows, and the last leg of the year last year. That's really what I was doing. I was kind of going to a bunch of these shows and meeting different people, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And that's when it kind of hit me where I was like, I've just kind of seen myself as such a music head my whole life, but I almost felt embarrassed that I didn't know about everything that was under my nose in my backyard. Right.
In your backyard.
1,000%. So like, that's why for me, it was just kind of like an eye-opening moment. And that's why, I personally just wanted to transition the show to like, not focusing on the scene, but like definitely giving it its due diligence, because like you said, there is a lot of dope artists in this area, and there's more coming up all the time, but also there's some that have been established for 5, 10, 15 years, and you just had to open your eyes a little bit,
Yeah.
like, on the glasses. So it's just one of those things where like, it really, the research part of it really is important. I think that's like a good point that you made for sure. And I in doing my research with you, speaking of which, I did notice that you are really embedded in a lot of these nonprofit events and things like that. You even did how to jumpstart a music career in Boston or whatever. Tell me a little bit about that. I was very curious when I saw that, like what that was all about.
Oh yeah, so this happened at the top of the year pre-COVID too, which I was like, wow, I can't. It seems so long ago, but I give a lot of advice to a lot of these upcoming artists out here, because I'm sort of like laying down a blueprint of what it's like to be an independent artist. I don't have any backing. I don't have any team machine behind me. I study the business of this, which is ever changing, and a lot of these things obviously with the help of, freelancers and stuff like that. But as far as the back end logistical work, it's all been myself. I don't really have help when it comes to sourcing press, when it comes to pressing up CDs, all the stuff. It was something that has always been me and my dad. And because he used to be in a rap group when I was a little girl, so I learned a lot from him. And yeah, for me, I realized, like, when we would go to a lot of these underground hubs, like the Mad Music Mill and Dorchester Art Project, people would always ask me, like, how do you do what you do? How did you get to where you're at? And I have aspirations of, after this music life, of being like a life coach and giving seminars and webinars. And before COVID, I was speaking at a lot of colleges. And I was like, you know what, I'm getting a lot of questions, and I see that a lot of people really don't know how to get started. So for me, people always say, oh, they always give you like that bigger picture type thing. And I wanted to show people how to get your feet wet, because of what you just said. People don't know about their resources in Boston. I always see people complaining about the lack of resources, no community, no support, which is false, because I wouldn't be able to accomplish half of what I did if that were true, because most of this has happened because of you guys. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a workshop, how to jumpstart a music career in Boston. I wanted to let everybody know who the movers and shakers were in the city, who the journalists were, how to register yourself as a business, how to different ways to get revenue, you name it. How to what was one of the major things too? Oh, how to become a certified artist in Boston, which then gives you access to artist housing in the city. These are things that nobody knows about. And I'm like, well, why not? So why not put together a workshop that condenses all of that information in one? And it was just something I tried, and I linked up with Dorchester Art Project, which I'm on the advisory board of them now. I wasn't at the time. And we just did it. We said, let's see who shows up. And we literally didn't have that many seats open. It was over capacity. There were like 100 people there. It was only 40 seats. And it was just a great moment. There's a picture of that, like, on my Instagram, you can see. And it was a great night. We did a little survey after. People said they learned so much. And that's what really fulfills me. Like, my self-fulfillment comes from helping other people and putting them on. And I want to see other people flourish as well. And I'm a teacher. I put a lot of lessons in my music underlying over catchy beats. So, that's just what I came up with. And I did multiple ones. So
That's awesome. I love that. I think that it's like what you said too. It doesn't, I guess the number of people that, went doesn't really matter. It really just depends upon how many people did you touch. Exactly. And even if that number is one, that's okay. That's great.
Yeah,
You know
I never focus on views and plays and listens and all that, but it really spoke volumes that night to see it over capacity, because of that very thing we just spoke about. There's no love here. There's no scene. There's no community. That's a lie.
It sounds like a cop out at this point to me.
Yeah.
I really feel like it is. It doesn't, I don't know. Cause I've heard this, like when I was getting into it recently, not recently, but like when I first started, that was kind of like the message that was being received, and in my eyes, and I was kind of like, I don't know. And then I've done, over the last year or so, done more research, and I've realized, like, no, there is more resources here than people realize and understand. It's just a matter of, like you said, tapping into them and knowing where to get them.
And they're probably frustrated because their careers haven't taken off how they would like. So now you're complaining. If they were in articles, if they were receiving some of the things that we receive, let's see if they would be saying the same thing. And also, if you're looking for Boston to be in Atlanta or in LA, then obviously, no, we don't have the same things that they have, but we don't need to have, like, there's other ways to get your career off the ground. And that's more so what the workshop tries to teach.
That's amazing. Cause I'm coming from a teacher's perspective, that's like huge to me. Cause like you're helping people that are, young adults, or it really didn't even matter the age, but like you're helping people, really find a path there. And that's really at the core of education. It's like why I do what I do with everything that when I teach, I coach, I do this podcast, it's all kind of meant to do teachable moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that. Really huge. So I guess my question, follow up to that would be, if you had any advice, like if you had like a really, like one piece of like profound advice you would have for someone starting their music career in Boston, because it's interesting, like that we're talking about this, because as we speak, I'm about to launch an initiative with Jay Faith over in Lowell, who just started up this this movement called Right Mind, and his focus is to do exactly what you're saying, is to provide resources for people that don't know where to go or don't know how to start potentially, and just we felt like it was a good good partnership because of our brand and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to have this conversation, but I guess that's my question: is what advice would you possibly have for someone that is trying to start a music career? Maybe it doesn't have to be in Boston; it can be anywhere. But
Yeah, specifically here. Yeah. For me, I always say you have to research and study your market. You have to look at trends. There's going to be a lot of trial and error, seeing what works. Cause like I can give you a list from 1 to 5, right? And you can do all of those things and your music might not resonate with the listeners. And who can you really be mad at? Sometimes I think we have to look inward. A lot of times it's always blaming, oh, Boston didn't do this or this city didn't do this, enter any city, right? But you have to really study and research your market. I wouldn't give any advice that I didn't give myself or do myself. That's what I had to do because I was frustrated for a while. Like, hey, I'm crossing all my T's, dotting all my I's, but like, what is the last step that I'm missing? I had a visibility issue. You know what I mean? And half of that had to do with my social anxiety, but the other half, I was like, well, who are the people I need to know? Because I was like, these shows that I'm doing, these are not cutting it for me. Once I, did something different, I ended up going down a rabbit hole and meeting all these people. I'm like, oh, this is where everybody's been hiding. So I would definitely say study your market wherever that is. I would definitely say make sure that you're consistent, and let me just make that be known, like that doesn't mean just put out quantity over quality, you know what I mean, but stay consistent. Like you want to have your name in everybody's mouth, because word of mouth is always going to be the number one form of marketing. To me, that's all I had before all these articles. That's how people knew who I was, or at least heard my name, like you said, floating around. It's word of mouth. And obviously we're in COVID times now, but shows are really what got my name out there. I didn't see this type of response until I was hitting up festivals and these big shows, and Oompa put on a show one time, and that opened up my fan base to a completely different fan base. And but it was definitely networking. People say that, and networking is not jumping in somebody's DM and saying, hey, check out my music, or liking 10 photos and then saying, hey, let's work, and you don't even know if we complement each other's sound. That really grinds my gears. Networking is literally building relationships, but then maintaining those relationships and being genuine about those relationships. And that's something that I don't think people get. But I always say talent is like 10%, unfortunately, in this business, because if you're doing music for a hobby, cool, do what you want. But if you're trying to have lucrative income and monetize your career, a lot of things come into play, and talent is a small portion. You got to have charisma, you got to have a personality. So I think you got to look at your overall brand. This is a lot of information, but it's a lot of work. It's not easy to you can't just wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do music, I'm dope, everybody needs to support me. You're not entitled to support. So my number one, I'd say my last advice would be drop the artist entitlement.
I guess I look at it from a different perspective because we're on a podcast over here, but it's kind of in the same breath because, I kind of, something that I had to learn early on too with being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship was not something that I ever thought I would be envisioning myself even attempting, to be quite honest. And my friends, I guess, disagreed. They used to talk behind my back that I should, but yeah, here we go. But that was something too, where it was like, one, not only trusting the process, but we've only grown because of exactly what you're talking about, is creating those genuine relationships. Yeah. That's the key. It really is. And, for us, I actually mentioned this in the coronavirus episode that I did, how the coronavirus has impacted the music industry that came out about a week ago, from the time recording this coming out tonight. But in terms of that, like I was kind of seeing in terms of making the relationships was really like the important part of it. And, I even talked a little bit about in that episode, like etiquette and like when you're going to DM certain people, right? Like it can't be, hey, check out my song. Like, cause I personally get those DMs all the time, every week. It's exhausting. The people that actually like send me like like emails that are like trying to like, hey, I listened to your episode. They like point something out potentially in the episode or whatever, or like about the show, and then they actually like make the time to make a general like connection. Those are the artists that I typically like give the most attention and listen to. And then they're the ones that most likely always end up on this show. Like I talked about it even with Taha the Phoenix. He was another guy. I've never heard of this guy in 1,000,001 years. And he sent me this so articulate and like just polite
Yeah.
email. And he was just like, here's my, and then I'm checking out this guy's stuff. I'm like, he's opened up for Pusha T. Like this guy's dope. This is great. Like
People you don't know about, and they're doing great things, huge things. And so you can't say, oh, I don't know you anymore as a diss.
right.
Really.
Exactly. But like for me, but that's really the key is exactly what you're talking about is make, like you said, making those genuine relationships and connections. Like I said, it cannot just be, hey, come check out my new track. Like
I get those DMs too, and I'm like, well, what do you think? I'm still trying to get myself off the ground. I get free game all year long, but as far as your music, I mean, there's not really much I can do with it. And in COVID, it does make things harder, but there's so many virtual events. I would say apply that same thing. You should pop into a bunch of open mic virtual events. Get your stuff out there that way. Find out who threw the event. You can do it that way.
Exactly. Well, amazing free game from Red Shaydez here. Gave a lot. That was awesome. That was a great answer. So I definitely want to ask last on this topic, who are some of your favorite Boston artists, or not even Boston? We'll call it like Massachusetts, New England, just from this general area. Who are some of your favorite artists that either you've worked with or that you just enjoy their music?
Yeah.
Who should the people, besides, who we've put on lately and you, of course, who should the people be listening to?
Definitely, and I wrote this down because every time I get asked this question, I go, oh, I get stumped.
It's one of those things where like
Yeah.
you almost
There's
blind.
too many, and then I'm like, oh, I should have said this person, but I would definitely say C4, Clark D.
Clark D is dope, man.
Yeah.
He's very musically gifted, just in general.
Oh, yeah, just all around musician.
Yep. I heard his podcast on CWTFB actually. That he just
I listened to that one too.
Charlie's
That's nice. You listen to a lot of podcasts, huh?
I'm a podcaster, so just I do it for a couple reasons. Not to go off on this tangent, but like I listen to podcasts for not only just like different ideas and so I just like hearing like how other people run their shows, right? It gives it really. I'm always looking to improve on what I'm doing in my craft. Like I'm nowhere near perfect, like you said. Like I'm still trying to push the show and get I want to get. I'm nowhere near I want it. I almost don't feel like some people look at us as a as an authority figure. I'm like not even close. Like we're not even close to there yet. But I just like hearing not only what other podcasters are doing, but I like hearing just in general what's going on now in like the scene. And I respect so much. Shout out to Charlie. He does a fantastic job with his podcast. Really, really.
Oh, he gives some of the best interviews. We actually went to high school together. So yeah. So I remember his rap days because he often references it in his interviews. I was around when he was rapping, Yeah, so we go way back, and I was on his show too and had a great time. I told him there, I was like, you give really great interviews. And but yeah, and then I'm a big fan of like singers. So like I love people like Sonamai and Eva Davenport, obviously Kasia Levon, she's in my band, but she's a solo artist as well. There's tons of people, but I gave you about 5. So yeah.
That's totally fine. 5 is perfect. But that's definitely. I obviously heard Ava on your album, and you said Cassia. That was the other one too, or no?
Kasia Levon.
Levon, yes.
Sonamai, yeah.
She's on the album too, yes. But that's a great list. I love it. The Boston guys, people, there's plenty in the scene. I mean,
so much.
Go check out any of the past episodes in our catalog if you're new to the show, or like, go check out CWTFB. He has so many great artists on that show. There's so many different platforms and ways to get educated on the scene here. So super important, I think. And but you definitely have gotten some recognition from some big publications that I've been seeing in the last couple of months. And,
Yeah.
you were on Up Rocks, you were on Hot 90, 96.9, but you were in the Boston Herald,
Yeah.
uh, um, WGBH, like you were on, even you had an interview with BU. I mean, you've been kind of all over. So, what has the new kind of recognition for you? Like, how has that kind of felt for you? Like, is that a place you're comfortable yet, or is that something you're still kind of navigating?
Definitely still navigating that. And so I often talk about, I have a lot of songs like with dealing with the newfound fame, if that's what you want to call it. But I'm also like, when I hear it listed off like that, I'm like, oh, holy cow. I'm like, okay. I'm so, because people often tell me like, you got to realize how we view you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I don't. I'm like, I don't, because for me, I'm still going to always be that goofy, Shay. That's my nickname and stuff like that. But then I'm like, oh no, I'm actually like looked at as like, I don't know what it is, but with these publications, I'm very proud. I'm like, some of them I'm not even aware about. Like, if I post about it and I'm like, if I say, wow, I didn't even know, I didn't know. Okay, I'm not doing that for effect. Like, I had no idea I was going to be in Up Rocks. That's a site that I used to read a lot back, a couple years back. That's like a huge platform, so I was like so grateful for that. WGBH, like I was like, I actually made that article. I was on the list twice, so I'm like, wow. The biggest thing to me is that my music and my art is resonating with people, but like I didn't know it was gonna get all of this coverage and whatever's yet to come, because like in my previous efforts I never got this much like press. Like the Chillin' and Shady P is when press started like picking up and covering me. But Feel the Aura just took the cake. It's still like, it's been out for a little over a month now, and people are still listening to it. They're still writing about it, which speaks volumes to me, because 2020, this new generation is so microwavable, and you get a project, especially a project as long as mine, done done deal. But the fact that people are still playing it, still tagging me, you don't know how grateful I am. Like, and that's like it's super special to me. But yeah, with each like article, I guess I feel like I am getting a little like more known, and that is never gonna be normal to me, because I just like to make music. I never wanted the fame part. So I am very low key. So I do it. I think I do a good job of, I'm here, you see me, I'm out, I'm on social media, but I don't give away too much. But I like to balance my time, and just being normal is important for me.
It's definitely a beautiful thing to just keep into yourself in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I have those days too, where like, because obviously do this podcast, people know I teach, I coach, like I'm just interacting with people all day long. And
yeah.
it's not, I mean, I'm a personal person. Like I enjoy that aspect of my career. Like that is, why I do what I do. I love it, but there has to be that balance, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to be in the limelight and the spotlight the whole time, right? And nobody's meant for that. But
Nobody's there for that.
right, but and on the other breath too, like you gotta like take in all these. I mean, like as I was reading it off too, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty impressive. Like this is great. Like MTV, Boston Herald, like
Yeah, like I just haven't,
cool.
it's been happening back to back to back to back. So I try to explain to people that I haven't processed the last feat yet, because I'm still trying to take all of this in while still trying to pursue music, while still working. I'm a video producer by day, like, and then I'm an artist development director with TWHT out in Cambridge. Like, so there's a lot of things going on. So if I wake up and I see this and it's in this paper and this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, and I haven't been able to process everything yet. So, but it's great. I'm super grateful though. It's hard to get used to, even though it's been happening consistently for about a year and a half or so. Um, I just remember always being overlooked in the city, and that's not a negative thing. Not saying people weren't, it's not that they weren't supporting me, it was just I was overlooked. And so now to be getting all this attention so fast all at once, it's a lot.
Well, yeah, it's got to be humbling, but also like satisfying at the same time, right?
Yes, 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 for sure.
Sure. And there's one thing you mentioned that I want to come back to a little bit that I've noticed. And I think it was like saw like a meme about this or something like that. But it was funny. Like I think the meme was like, artist comes out with an album and then the next week like fans are like, sick. So like when's the next album coming out, right? Like,
Yo, yes. I'm like, yeah.
I slaved over this for a year. What are you
talking about? I gave you guys 19 tracks. That's what happened. So like I was like, I'm giving you a full length body of work. I'm on everybody's project, like, cause I'm on a bunch of features too. I'm like, I'm giving you all this stuff. I better not hear one person for at least a year say, all right, what's next? What do you mean, what's next? I gave you a music video. I gave you two, and it hasn't even been 2 months yet. There's still surprises coming out within the next 2 weeks. Like, I don't know, but they're like, all right, so what else you doing? What else? People are like, so what else are you up to? I'm like, what am I not up to? This is why I be hiding.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that. It's true. It's amazing though that you said this is a microwavable culture right now, or society. And that we're like, we just recycle through everything. It's really, so for you, it must be great to like still see people post and feel the aura and that people are still bumping it. Like that is
especially locally too,
Yes. And in this climate, right? I mean, when you could, people are so quick to just be on to the next, song or album. Like every week they're like, okay, well, what's next? What is coming out this week? It's like, I'm still listening to last week's stuff.
Yeah. So the fact that you're telling me you still listen to the album, that's great. Like that. Those are things I'm also like, I get satisfied by engagement. It's never about, I got 50K plays on this. This has 1 million views. I don't care about any of that. Right. Did you, if 100 people watched it and 70 people say, this touched me, that's all I need.
Absolutely. Yeah. It kind of goes back to, what you were talking about with your how to jumpstart a music career event that you did. Like that's our seminar. That's really at the core. Like I agree with you. Like, when I get my new, kids in front of me or virtually, however this year ends up going, I kind of have that same breath. Like the goal is to inspire, motivate, right? Like it's in front of me, but the reality is I might not be the teacher that does it. I mean, I hope so in theory, like that's really my goal. But if I can reach 10, 5, 2 of them, right. And like, that, and they remember me or they, I teach them something that they take with them the rest of their lives. Like that really is the most important thing. Even if it's just 1 or 2 or a handful of those students, that like, that's when it means the most, you know what I mean? So like, and you, it's the same way as an artist, like, I'm sure like, when certain people are probably DMing you like, hey, like this song or this album, like got me out of the rut I was in, or like this really
and that, it made me cry almost. I was like, wow.
So that's happened to you before? Like you've
always, especially with this album though. But like, cause I tend to put a lot of myself and personal issues in my music. So, on the last project, No Resentment was a big one for people that really hit them because it talks about, strained relationships with family members. But Stepping Out is a song, and Still I Love You. Those are the 2 songs that people have tagged me and wrote to me personally about why this has helped them get through this, that, and the third. All the time.
A beautiful thing when that can happen, when you can really resonate with fans and people that are consuming your music. I think that's got to be one of the most satisfying things for sure to get that. I think that probably means a lot more than like, oh, yo, your album's dope. Like it plays all through, blah, blah. If you're getting somebody that's like this song really.
This is why. Your album's dope, and this is why. That's why I appreciated the review that you guys gave, because it was like, we love it, but these are the pieces why we love the album. I love reading that,
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's the goal. There's only there's only so much music to go around, but there's too much even. But that I definitely felt like you definitely needed your due diligence, because of course, like we talked about throughout this episode, the album is just is one of the best that I've heard from the area this year. That I really believe that. Go back in any of my other episodes. I have not said that. I swear.
He's like, I'm telling you.
Right. Telling everybody this, right? I was pumped to have you on. I was telling my producer Sam today. I was like, we're getting Red Shades on.
I appreciate you. Yeah, for sure.
And one of your other songs that I personally resonated with and liked a lot from you was Self Care 18. And I love your sentiment here. Just so my question is, I mean, I'm somebody that really is big into mental health, and someone that's dealt with anxiety for a lot of my life, and really um, just really just again like struggled with it, but also it's taught me a lot as well. And I've realized, especially during these times, self care is huge. It's always important, no matter what. But I was curious, what does your self care look like in your opinion, and then maybe talk to me a little bit about like the importance of mental health awareness in maybe in general, but also in music as well.
Yeah, for me, like it's super important, and it's like I was living really fast a couple years ago, and that's how I knew I was out of alignment. You can always tell your body will talk to you, as well as your mind. And for me, it's definitely like taking time to smell the roses. So like work life balance is super huge for me. So like I'm grateful that for whatever reasons, it makes it look like, I'm always busy, always working as far as on social media because of seeds that I planted months and years before, and everything comes out at the same time. But behind the scenes, I take that time off away. Like I'm not answering any emails, I'm not looking at DMs, I'm spending time, with my family or my girlfriend or wherever. I'm going to a cookout and just doing that. Like I don't want to be Red Shades 100% of the time, and that's not possible because I couldn't give you guys my best self. um it's a lot of people when they say self-care, you think of like the bubble baths and all that type of stuff, and that's a part of it too. But it's a skincare regimen, a good hair regimen, reading, and just taking time to know you. I talk a lot about self-awareness, and you don't have to be perfect, just like accepting all of those flaws and just trying to work on things and unlearn a lot of like past behavior that might be detrimental to your mental health. And I'm still learning new things every day, but I think for me the number one thing is like balance and taking time to smell the roses.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that analogy. And yeah, I agree in the same way. Like I'm somebody that recently, not recently, but within the last few years, really got into hiking. Like that was like a big thing for me personally. Like there's something about like pushing myself to climb a 3,000, 4,000 foot mountain and do like a 10-mile thing, like and being just dead exhausted, like physically afterwards. But what it does to me mentally is so like it's better than any regimen or whatever that I've ever done for my mental health. Just me personally, because it really it calms me being out in nature, but it also like just the act of hiking. Actually, I look at it as almost a metaphorical way of like literally climbing the mountain to get to like your goal or get to the summit, right? And then
Yes.
you reach that goal and then you have to climb back down though, and there's a process with that as well. Like you can't just there's nobody can stay up at that summit all the time, right? There
Can't
has
be happy all the time.
exactly there's going to be peaks and valleys and all that, and there's just part of me that as I'm trudging up this mountain, and this happens every single time I do it, I'm halfway up and I'm like, why did I do this to myself, right? I'm like, I don't want to be here right now. I'd love to just be in my bed, like doing nothing. But I know that for me, like as a person, it's good for me, right? And then I'm like, no, this is good. I'm going towards a goal, and then I become more productive afterwards. And it's just I think what you're saying is so important because everyone should just find the one or handful of things that they use as tools to combat mental health. We're all dealing with it right now in different ways. Uh, you know, say what you want. I mean, men out there, tough men, you're going through it too. Trust me. Like
Yeah, yeah. You're
we
human.
exactly, it's part of the human experience to deal with all the things, all these types of feelings. And it really is, it really just for your overall health. You're right, like your body will talk to you if your mental and your emotional, they're not in sync. Like it's so true. Like
It's
I
all connected to me.
it really is, it really
And I
is.
love what you said about nature because that's something that I did a lot over this pandemic. It's just being outside and taking advantage of nature. Because look, now it's getting cold again, so I'm so happy. Like I did a lot of like outside activities, bike riding, and you're right. Like when you exercise, it just releasing those endorphins. It just feels so good, you know.
I think that was the good thing about this pandemic. I mean, not that anything was like, not to say it was good, but I just feel like with this whole situation, I think some of us, or I hope, kind of realize what was important in life, and trying to cherish some of these little things, smell the roses, as you're saying, and that's
Smell
like,
the roses. We're so go, 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 myself included, like in the past years. And
true.
once I started getting older, I was like, no, that's not what matters. And I'm not happy.
No,
So,
that is so huge too. Like to understand, like look at yourself. Say, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And if I'm not, how do I fix it? Because like
yeah,
people are just okay with, you know, staying in the same. It's like what's that saying? It's like doing the same thing every time, and stupidity really is like doing the same thing every time and
yeah,
result. It's like if you're a go 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 person, like you have to shut off at some point, right? And
yeah.
I'm the exact same way as you. Like, I obviously, like I've mentioned all the things I do in my life before this, like that it takes a lot of time to, and I want to make sure I'm doing the best job I possibly can at everything that I do. But in order to do that, right, there has to be balance there, that work life balance. We talk about about that a lot in the teaching realm too, because you can tend to get that's just definitely a profession that people get very wrapped up in, and it's not like that normal like 8 to 5 desk job. Like there's always something to do in teaching, and like one of the things you learn really early on is like you can't do it all. It's impossible. Like I could
You need help.
exactly, yeah, you need help, and asking for help, that's the big thing too. Like not being someone that's just like, oh yeah, I got it all figured out, I know what I'm doing. Like
That used to be me. And I was like, no, you need help. And you need to and not be afraid to ask for help, you know?
1,000%. No, it's so important. So I have like one more question before my final question, favorite question. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about like we talked a little bit about the pandemic, and I noticed you had plans for Busted Out Boston. Did you ever end up getting to do that? I guess that was because that looked really interesting when I was doing some research on it. I was curious if you ever got to run it, or and really how the pandemic maybe has impacted your music career, or your career in general.
Yeah, so Bust Out Boston is a festival that celebrates women and non-binary artists. And so it was a festival that existed before me, but I was luckily enough to be approached by the organization this year to be a co-producer. So it was myself, Brandy Blaze, Jasmine Red, and some of the original producers of that festival. So no, due to COVID, it wasn't able to happen. It was supposed to happen around August. And so they decided to take this year to sort of pivot and figure out what to do for next year. So that was something I was like really excited about too, because that was like another title under my belt. Being a co-producer of a festival, which was going to be great because I have a great ear for talent, and we were going to be able to source through the applications, and we were going to get a lot of different kind of artists on the bill, as well as perform too. So no, that didn't get to happen. And to answer the second part of your question, Feel the Aura was going to be accompanied by a movie. I have a background in film and video. I'm a video producer at my day job, and that there was this big thing, a part of the Phil Dior experience, and so it was gonna show um, my journey from basically day one until now, and the underlying theme was going to be delayed gratification. Obviously, due to the pandemic, we couldn't shoot. Literally, when we decided we had to put a hold on production, I was like in a production call for the movie. The script is already ready to go. I made when I made my announcement about the album coming, that's all in there. So like, you literally, I'm helping consumers just follow this album process from the beginning all the way until now. So like, a lot of things were supposed to happen which didn't, so I had to get really creative, which is why I had a live produced album listening party. We had the cake, we had you got to hear from the engineer himself, you got to hear from the graphic designer and see the album taken apart, all type of things. But that was supposed to be a movie premiere. And so unfortunately that didn't get to happen. Obviously I couldn't really shoot music videos, so that's why I did an animated music video which hit really well online. Yeah, people seem to love that.
I
And
like, oh,
so
great.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that I had to like I said earlier at the beginning of this, you had to go back to the drawing board. Like, even people like myself were affected. And I was like, you know what? Well, I'm not going to let that stop me. People still need to hear this music because it could potentially help heal people. So I still went forward. But yeah, I was faced with a lot of challenges with this rollout. It turned my rollout upside down.
But you adapted. That's really the big word we've been using around here is like adaptability within
Yeah.
this time. And it sounds to me, even though, because there's two different ways to look at that. It's like, crap, that stinks. Like, can't do shows, can't do, my way I wanted to roll up my album,
Mhm.
can't do, can't co-produce an event. Like, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or you just, say this does suck and acknowledge that and, have your day or whatever to feel sorry for yourself, whatever. But then it's train keeps moving, right? Like, it's
Train
just
keeps moving, and I let you in on a secret, and I kind of said it on a post months at the beginning of the pandemic, but I I'm probably one of the only artists enjoying this break from performing during the pandemic. Like, performance not like my favorite thing to do, even though people are surprised because they say I turn into a monster on stage. Once I'm up there and my adrenaline gets going and my anxiety goes down, I love it because I miss the in-person interactions and be able to see the fans in person and them talk about why they enjoyed the performance. But the stress, everything beforehand and all the prep, I don't like, I'm enjoying this break because like I said, my life was go go go. Every other day somebody was asking me to be on this bill, which is great. That's money, that's more that's connection with your fans. But people tend to forget, like I said, I don't have a machine behind me. So if I'm working my day job, my side job, and music, which is another full-time job because I'm doing everything in the back, I'm tired and I'm drained. So once like you said, and that, I think this is like the common theme throughout this whole episode, is like it gave us time to sit back and smell the roses. I was able to spend much more time with family, much more time with my loved ones. And I'm happy because I'm family oriented. So that made me happy. And I'm not like, I see a lot of my peers, they're so sad and I feel so bad for them because, they're like, I gotta perform. I need to be back out on the stage. And I'm here at home like, you know what? I'm enjoying this break. I think I was moving real fast and I needed this.
that's like, I think, a good sentiment for this episode and really for
Yeah.
this whole take a breath, relax, smell the roses. I love that sentiment. That's great.
Yes, yeah.
So awesome. And I think it's really amazing too what you were, I mean, I'm sure you will be involved with it at some point, but I love the initiative of Bust Out Boston. I think that's super great too. It's just in this climate, it's so important just to understand that, if we all come from different backgrounds and we're all different human beings, but at the end of the day, we're all looking for that common goal of, finding the people that, lift us up and give us positivity. And we all, at some way we want to be accepted. And it's just,
Mhm.
that's so important right now to understand that, during this climate and this time that, humanity is the most important thing. And we have to just love each other a little bit more, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, be gentle, be kind. Like, we're not perfect. And have you ever been to a previous Bust Out Boston festival?
No, and I've never heard of it, but now again, like
Oh.
doing some research on you earlier and seeing that, I was like, oh, okay, like that's intriguing to me. So next year, if it comes back around, I'm there.
Yeah, and research some of the past ones too, because there's like probably videos and all. It was a great one. They used to hold it at Brighton Music Hall.
Oh, I like that venue too.
Yeah, and Do 617, would work in collaboration with Bust Out.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, there's so many dope festivals, man. There was so many great shows, but yeah, and there's a bunch of live stream shows to catch too. So there's a lot of performances coming up even still because everybody pivoted and started doing the live stream shows. So
Red Shades, you have been amazing during this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. You're not quite off the hook yet, though, because I have my last question, my favorite question I ask
okay,
every
what's the favorite one?
favorite one. I call it the dream song scenario. Okay. And I'm gonna break it down for you. So I ask every artist that comes on this show if they could make a song, anybody, dead or alive, who would you have on the song? I'll structure for you. You get a producer or a couple producers if you want a certain maybe melody from one producer, maybe a drum progression from another producer. You can kind of get creative with that. And then you get 3 guest features. You get a hook and 2 guest verses. All right. So you get anybody to produce the song, and you get three guests, one to do the hook, 2 verses, and you get a verse. So
Ooh, I love this.
you can have anybody, dead or alive. Some people come on and they're like, they rattle them off like, I don't know how it would sound. Maybe this wouldn't sound good. Who cares? It's the dream song scenario. It can sound however you want to. So
Dream song. I got it. Finally, not stumped. Okay, let's get it. The producer by far will be Timbaland.
ooh, I think you'd sound good over some Timbaland. And
Thank
obviously,
you. My earlier music had Timbaland-esque beats, so definitely Timbaland. He's my favorite. Definitely having Missy Elliott on the song. I'm a big fanatic of Aaliyah. She's on the song. Big Pun's gonna definitely be on the song.
wow,
So is that 3?
You killed it. You were ready for it.
I was ready because I knew. I was like, that's who I would love to work with them.
That's awesome. I like that. Red Shades featuring Big Pun, Missy Elliott, and Leah with production from Timbaland. That would be ridiculous. That would work. And for sure, obviously, like I've been saying this since I was a kid. Well, not since. I probably shouldn't say that. But back in hindsight, Aaliyah was like Beyonce before Beyonce, or like would be if she was still alive. Like she would be on that level, in my opinion. Like she was doing great.
She was doing great things.
The trajectory was just incredible, and I still listen to that Try Again song all the time. It's like I literally like go out of my way to like go listen to it like I have it like saved like on my old iTunes, like because it's not on streaming services, and I just love that freaking song.
Yeah, and her, Timbaland, and Missy were a dream team. So
exactly, so you're kind of getting that dream team back and adding in Big Pun.
Yeah, I think crazy.
Match made in heaven, no pun intended. So,
boss.
Every once in a while, a bar will pop out of me, but definitely not as talented as you or anybody else I've had on this show. So that's for damn sure.
Oh, thank you.
The talent is all you guys. But Red Shaydez, once again, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can find you on socials and all that good stuff.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Red Shaydez. You can find me everywhere at Red Shaydez1. That's RedShaydez and the number 1. And you can also find everything out that you need to know about me on my website. That's chillingintheshade.com. And that's chillin' with no G. Holla.
Love it. Oh, you really on the spot, just ready for that. You're killed it. I love it. We'll link all that for you guys in the description as well. Make sure you go stream Feel the Aura. If you have not already, you're sleeping. If you haven't, you have to go stream that thing. We'll link that in the description as well. Red Shades, again, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun. Great episode. If you're a fan of Red Shades and you're just coming on us for the first time, you can follow us at Turntable Teachers. Hit up our website, www.turntableteachers.com, for all the latest blogs, episodes, merchandise. We got brand new Right Mind content that is out there that I was talking about a little bit earlier in this episode. Definitely go check us out. Our fans, you got to obviously check out Red Shades. You know it's good. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for being here and tuning into today's episode. I'm Mike. This is Red Shades with the Turntable Teachers. And class is officially dismissed.
Turn.